Dr. Elena Reyes pressed her palm against the observation window, her breath fogging the glass as the crystalline alien vessel descended through storm clouds. Lightning crackled around its hull, seemingly drawn to the otherworldly material. 50. Years of SETI broadcasts and finally, contact. Dr. Reyes, they're requesting you specifically in the reception chamber, said General Williams, his weathered face tight with concern. I don't like this. We have no protocol for direct negotiation. Elena straightened her jacket. With respect, General, we've had protocols gathering dust since the 1960s. They just never anticipated the aliens would speak perfect Mandarin and request our best linguist by name. Rain pounded the United Nations complex as Elena made her way to the hastily prepared reception area. World leaders from 27 nations huddled together, their usual political differences temporarily forgotten. The massive doors slid open, revealing 3 Vixari emissaries. Their reptilian bodies moved with unsettling grace, scales shifting colors like living opals. The lead diplomat, who called himself Ambassador Psyloth, extended a 6-fingered hand. His vertical pupils contracted in the bright lighting. Dr. Elena Reyes, he said, voice melodic and precisely accented. Your xenolinguistic theories regarding mathematical symmetry and potential alien communication were remarkably accurate. Your species shows surprising promise. Elena accepted the handshake, noting how the ambassador's grip seemed carefully calibrated to human strength. Everything about these aliens felt meticulously planned. For 3 days, the Vixari presented their offer. The Galactic hegemony welcomed Earth as its newest protectorate. They would provide medical technology that could extend human lifespans by centuries, clean energy systems, and limited faster-than-light travel capabilities. In exchange, Earth would grant mining rights to certain regions and accept hegemony guidance in all extraplanetary affairs. This is literally everything we've dreamed of, the American president whispered during a brief recess. They're offering us the stars. But something felt wrong. Each night, Elena returned to her temporary quarters and reviewed the day's recordings. On the 3rd evening, she noticed it. Subtle discrepancies between what the Vixari said and their micro-expressions. Their translator implants occasionally lagged by milliseconds when discussing certain topics. They were lying. Elena worked through the night, running their communications through pattern recognition algorithms she designed for theoretical alien linguistics. By dawn, she had identified 37 instances where the Vixari's actual meaning contradicted their stated promises. Across the Atlantic, Captain Marcus Zhang received the automated alert from the Sentinel array. Something small had breached Earth's atmosphere on a trajectory carefully calculated to avoid detection. His ship Defender, humanity's first true spacecraft designed for military purposes, intercepted the crippled pod before it could crash into the Pacific. Inside lay a dying alien unlike the Vixari. This creature had feathered skin and 4 eyes. Arranged in a diamond pattern, blood the color of amber leaked from multiple wounds as Zhang's medical officer tried desperately to stabilize it. Nalari, the creature gasped, pressing a crystalline data storage device into Zhang's hand. We were like you once. The hegemony is not brotherhood, it is consumption. In New York, world leaders gathered for the formal signing ceremony. Champagne flowed as diplomats celebrated humanity's entry into galactic civilization. Ambassador Psyloth stood on the stage, arms spread wide in welcome as holographic displays showed the wonders Earth would soon receive. Elena burst through the security doors, soaked from the rain, clutching her evidence. "Stop, they're not here to help us," she shouted over the murmuring crowd. "The Vixari aren't allies, they're advanced scouts for an invasion force." The ambassador's pleasant expression didn't waver, but his scales darkened to a deep crimson. As his true intentions were exposed for all to see, the United Nations chamber erupted into chaos. Security personnel moved to restrain Elena, but Captain Zhang strode through the main doors, projecting the Nalari's dying message across the grand hall. The alien's 4 eyes, filled with pain and urgency, gazed down upon the gathered leaders. "The hegemony harvests worlds," the translated subtitles read. "They offer gifts that become chains. 53 civilizations have fallen this way. Ambassador Siloth's scales rippled with patterns that the translation software couldn't interpret, but his body language had shifted from welcoming to predatory. The two Vixari flanking him moved with sudden precision, producing devices from hidden compartments in their ceremonial robes. "This is most unfortunate," Siloth said, his melodic voice now carrying an unmistakable edge. "We had hoped to integrate your species with minimal disruption." Elena stepped forward, her translation algorithm displaying the Vixari's true communications on screens throughout the chamber. "You mean minimal resistance? You've done this before. Find promising species, offer them technology they can't refuse, then strip their worlds once they're dependent." Zhang activated the second file from the Nalari crystal. A holographic map materialized, showing dozens of star systems with planets bearing the scars of massive strip mining operations. Each was labeled with a species name and acquisition date. 53 civilizations, Zhang said quietly, all protected by the hegemony. Siloth's composure didn't falter, but his inner eyelids flickered rapidly, a sign of agitation Elena had catalogued during their negotiations. Humans are remarkably perceptive. Most species require months to uncover partial truths about our methods. He made a subtle gesture, and outside the chambers, a high-pitched whine filled the air as orbital platforms shifted configuration. Satellite feeds showed the elegant communication arrays transforming, unfurling into weapon systems targeting major population centers. "The hegemony has existed for 50 millennia, Siloth continued, backing toward his shuttle. "We have refined our expansion protocols to near perfection. Your resistance is noted but changes nothing. Our armada will arrive in approximately 6 Earth months. You may surrender then, or face extinction." Before security forces could react, the Vixari delegation activated personal shields and retreated to their landing craft. Zhang ordered fighter jets to intercept, but the alien shuttle accelerated to escape velocity within seconds, rejoining their mothership. "They're leaving," someone whispered, relief evident in their voice. "No," Elena said, studying the orbital data. "They're just moving to a safer distance to observe us. This is still happening." Emergency sessions convened as world leaders grappled with the reality of impending invasion. Military commanders presented defense options, all woefully inadequate against the technology they'd glimpsed. Scientists frantically analyzed the scraps of alien technology left behind, hoping to reverse engineer something useful. Elena and Zhang assembled a team in a secluded facility beneath the Rocky Mountains. Dr. Sanjay Patel arrived first, the game, theorist's mind already racing with strategic possibilities. Lieutenant Amara Okonkwo brought historical archives of Earth's most successful resistance movements. Dr. Maya Chen, whose pioneering work in nanobiology had been dismissed as too experimental by mainstream science, wheeled in cases of equipment. "We need access to their ship," Elena said, spreading schematics across the holotable. "The Nalari data suggests the Vixari mothership contains archives from every world they've conquered. If we understand how others failed, maybe we can succeed." "Impossible," General Williams objected. "Their vessel is beyond Mars orbit with defensive capabilities we can't match." Zhang smiled slightly. "Actually, during the ambassador's final transmission, Dr. Reyes captured their security protocols. We can't breach their defenses through force, but with the right approach, we can walk right through their front door," Elena finished, displaying the complex authentication codes she'd extracted from the Vixari communications. "And I know exactly how to use them." Dr. Sanjay Patel arranged chess pieces across the holographic display, each representing a different hegemony species. "The Vixari are diplomats," he explained, placing a queen on the board. "The Creel are living computers," he added, setting down a bishop. "Thraxi warriors serve as their enforcers," a knight joined the arrangement. Each evolved for a specific purpose within their hierarchy. Elena studied the pattern forming on the board. "And humans?" Patel smiled, placing a pawn in the center. "We're the only piece that can transform into any other. The hegemony species are specialists. We're adaptable generalists who constantly reinvent ourselves. Their plan took shape over 72 sleepless hours. While conventional military forces prepared predictable defenses, Elena's team developed strategies specifically designed to confuse and disrupt alien thought patterns. The hegemony conquers through prediction, Patel said, his algorithms mapping probable alien responses. Their 50 millennia of success comes from knowing exactly how a threatened species will react, so we'll do the opposite of whatever they expect. When hegemony scout ships returned to begin occupation protocols, they encountered bewildering human behavior. In Tokyo, their landing was greeted by thousands of citizens performing synchronized dance routines rather than panicking. In Rio, their threatening display was met with carnival celebrations. In Cairo, street vendors attempted to sell souvenirs to the confused alien soldiers. Lieutenant Okonkwo demonstrated martial arts forms to her strike teams that incorporated unpredictable movements. Fighting the Thraxi head-on is suicide, she explained. But their combat algorithms can't process techniques designed to be beautiful rather than efficient. The most effective innovation came from Elena herself. After analyzing the linguistic patterns of various hegemony species, she discovered none could process metaphor or cultural references. Their communication was literal, precise, and utterly devoid of creative association. Listen carefully, she instructed her communication teams. From now on, all tactical communication should incorporate human cultural references. The eagle has landed means attack. Winter is coming signals retreat. Dancing in the moonlight indicates flanking. Maneuvers. A Vixari commander, attempting to negotiate surrender terms in New Delhi, found himself utterly baffled when Indian officials responded exclusively in cricket metaphors and Bollywood references. His translation systems could convert the words, but couldn't extract meaningful intelligence from phrases like, "We're going to hit this challenge for a 6, or "This situation calls for a dramatic rain sequence." Captain Zhang's guerrilla units employed improvisation techniques borrowed from comedy performers, making their tactical decisions through structured randomness that no alien algorithm could anticipate. When hegemony forces attempted to establish a base in the Australian outback, they found their landing coordinates mysteriously changed to the middle of a surprise music festival. Dr. Maya Chen contributed perhaps the most subtle disruption by releasing engineered microorganisms that didn't harm the aliens but altered the biochemical signatures they used for identifying threats. Hegemony sensors designed to detect aggression hormones instead picked up confusing readings suggesting humans were experiencing joy and curiosity during confrontations. 2 months into the occupation attempt, the first cracks in the hegemony's confidence appeared. A leaked communication from a Vixari commander to the main fleet contained something unprecedented in their 50,000-year history, a request for clarification on how to proceed. "This isn't making sense," Patel said, watching the intercepted message with growing excitement. They've never encountered a species that doesn't follow predictable fear responses. Their entire invasion protocol assumes we'll either surrender or attempt conventional resistance. Elena nodded, a small smile forming. They've conquered 53 civilizations by following their playbook. It's time we introduce them to improvisational theater. From orbit, the Vixari commander observed human behavior with growing unease. For the first time in his long career, he faced a troubling question. What if this species couldn't be predicted at all? "Let them land," Lieutenant Okonkwo instructed, over the secure channel as hegemony dropships descended toward the lunar surface. Her voice remained steady despite the protests erupting from military commanders worldwide. "Trust me, this is how we win." The aliens established their first major base at Tycho Crater, their advanced construction units assembling prefabricated structures with mechanical precision. Earth governments publicly declared the moon lost while secretly implementing Okonkwo's ghost warfare strategy. 3 days after completion, the hegemony lunar base experienced its first mysterious malfunction. Life support systems reported normal operations while commanders gasped for breath. Navigation systems showed clear pathways that led patrols in circles. Communications networks transmitted orders correctly, then somehow delivered pizza delivery advertisements and love sonnets to bewildered alien recipients. Dr. Chen monitored the effects of her microscopic creations from the underground facility. The engineered bacteria are converting their fuel into non-toxic gel, she reported, watching sensor feeds. Not destroying it completely, that would be too obvious, just reducing efficiency by 30% each cycle. How are they responding? Zhang asked, reviewing tactical displays. Exactly as predicted, Chen smiled. They're checking their equipment for defects rather than considering biological sabotage. The hegemony has no concept of weaponizing microbiology this way. Elena entered the command center with fresh intelligence. We've decrypted more of the way. Nilari data crystal. The hegemony operates on absolute hierarchy. Field commanders cannot deviate from protocols without authorization from superiors. Zhang immediately grasped the advantage. So, if we disrupt their communication chains, their forces freeze, Elena confirmed. They literally cannot adapt without permission. The resistance accelerated their asymmetric campaign. When the hegemony launched their most elite strike force toward Earth's largest military installation, Okonkwo's team infiltrated their navigation systems. Rather than disabling them completely, which would trigger security protocols, they subtly altered the choreography of the assault. Observers watched in astonishment as the fearsome Thraxi, warriors instead of executing their precision attack, performed movements eerily resembling classical ballet. Their commander, unable to understand what was happening or contact his superiors for new orders, could only continue the compromised operation. The Supreme Hegemony Commander, observing from orbit, experienced an unfamiliar sensation as reports flooded in from confused field officers. The sensation had no name in his language, but humans called it doubt. We need to understand how they think, he finally admitted to his advisors. 50,000 years of conquest, and no species has ever responded like this. Meanwhile, Zhang led a daring raid using a captured hegemony shuttle. His team, disguised using holographic technology reverse-engineered from alien devices, infiltrated a communication relay station orbiting Mars. While security forces were distracted by decoy maneuvers that seemed random but were carefully calculated, Zhang's specialists placed quantum taps into the hegemony's interstellar network. We're in, he reported back to Earth. We can now monitor all communication between the advance forces and the main fleet. Elena's linguistic team worked frantically to process the massive data stream. Hidden among tactical reports and resource assessments, they discovered coordinates and recognition codes for something unexpected, a hidden outpost at the edge of the solar system. This isn't a hegemony installation, Elena realized, studying the cryptic references. It's something they're monitoring but haven't destroyed. Something they fear. Dr. Patel analyzed the orbital parameters. It's a hollowed-out asteroid in a highly eccentric orbit, perfect for remaining undetected. The Nilari mentioned other species maintaining resistance, Zhang said quietly. Could this be? Elena nodded, already preparing for their most dangerous mission yet. We're not alone in this fight. It's time we met our potential allies. On the command ship, the Hegemony Supreme Commander received a disturbing report. Humans had somehow breached their secure channel and discovered the existence of the resistance outpost. For the first time in his career, he considered requesting reinforcements ahead of schedule. The captured Hegemony shuttle glided silently toward the asteroid belt beyond Mars, its energy signature masked by Chen's ingenious modifications. Inside, Elena studied the Nilari translation matrices while Zhang piloted through the debris field, following coordinates extracted from the alien network. There, Zhang pointed toward what appeared to be just another tumbling space rock. Surface readings match the description, but I'm not detecting any artificial structures or energy emissions. That's the point, Elena replied. According to the Nilari data, this outpost has remained hidden for centuries by mimicking natural formations. They transmitted the authentication sequence discovered in the crystal. For 30 seconds, nothing happened. Then a seam appeared in the asteroid's surface, widening into a hangar bay large enough to accommodate their vessel. Ready weapons? Zhang instructed his team. Remember, we're hoping for allies but prepared for anything. The shuttle touched down in a chamber carved from the asteroid's interior. As the airlock cycled, Elena felt her heartbeat quicken. Humanity was about to meet other victims of the hegemony, species who had managed some form of resistance against overwhelming odds. The inner door opened to reveal a delegation unlike anything humans had imagined. Crystalline beings that refracted light in complex patterns. Bioluminescent entities whose skin pulsed with what appeared to be living communication circuits. Massive four-armed figures whose movements carried deliberate philosophical grace. A slender creature stepped forward, its feathered skin marking it as Nalari, the same species as the messenger who had died delivering the warning to Earth. Its four eyes studied the humans cautiously. "We received word of your resistance," it said in a precisely modulated voice. "Few species ever discover the hegemony's true nature before it's too late. Fewer still attempt to fight back. We're somewhat specialized in impossible situations," Chang replied. The Nellari guide introduced them to representatives of the Hidden Alliance. The crystalline Krell, whose perfect memory preserved histories the hegemony had tried to erase. The bioluminescent Isiri, whose collective consciousness had been fractured by their conquerors to create living computer nodes. The massive Dur, philosophers and artists reduced to serving as mining drones. Elena didn't offer grand promises or military alliances. Instead, she asked questions, learning about each species' unique culture and how the hegemony had twisted their natural talents into tools of servitude. The hegemony succeeds because they isolate conquered species from one another, the Krell representative explained, its crystalline form shifting to display historical records. No species alone has defeated them in 50,000 years. But humanity isn't trying to defeat them through superior strength, Elena observed. We're disrupting their ability to predict and control. The breakthrough came unexpectedly. Dr. Chen, examining an injured Isiri, discovered the neural suppressors the hegemony had implanted to fragment their hive mind. With careful application of her nanobiology techniques, she neutralized the suppression field. The effect was immediate and breathtaking. The Isiri gathered in the chamber began to glow with synchronized patterns, their consciousness reconnecting. For the first time in generations, emotions too complex for words flowed through their bioluminescent communication. A young Isiri approached Elena, her light patterns forming beautiful, intricate designs. "Your minds are individual, yet you understand connection," she communicated. "For centuries, the hegemony kept us isolated even from ourselves. You restored what we thought lost forever." Zhang organized training sessions, teaching resistance, tactics adapted to each species' unique abilities. The Dur, whose philosophical tradition included forms of moving meditation, quickly adapted human martial arts into something both beautiful and devastating. When it came time for the humans to return to Earth, they weren't leaving as they had arrived. What had begun as a desperate search for allies had transformed into something the hegemony could never comprehend: genuine friendship across species. The hegemony believes their strength comes from forcing each species into specialized roles, Elena reflected as their shuttle prepared for departure. They never considered what might happen if diverse species chose to combine their unique strengths voluntarily. The Krell representative handed her a crystalline data storage device. "Our complete history of hegemony weaknesses," it explained. "But be warned, they will soon realize something unprecedented is happening. They will send their most ancient and powerful leaders." "The Council of Seven," Elena whispered. "Yes," the Krell confirmed. "And they possess weapons that can destroy, not just bodies but minds." The emergency alert rippled through Earth's defense network with priority never before assigned. Something massive had appeared near Jupiter, displacing the very fabric of space around it. Military satellites trained their sensors on the anomaly, as scientists worldwide abandoned sleep to analyze the readings. "It's not a ship," Dr. Patel whispered, studying the holographic projection. "It's a mobile world." The structure dwarfed anything humans had encountered. A geometric megastructure larger than Earth's moon, with surfaces that seemed to bend reality itself. Light behaved strangely around it, creating impossible colors at its edges. The Krell archives had mentioned this vessel only in reverent, fearful terms, the world ship of the Council of Seven. Without warning, a message penetrated every communication device on Earth simultaneously. More disturbingly, it resonated directly within human minds regardless of technological mediation. The mental voice carried age beyond comprehension and absolute authority. Humans of Earth, your resistance exceeds acceptable parameters. Surrender your leadership immediately for processing, or witness the removal of your world from existence. You have 6 hours to comply. In the underground command center, world leaders gathered in grim silence. Military options were presented and dismissed as futile gestures. The technological gap was simply too vast. Elena stood before the council table. They expect either surrender or a desperate final attack. Let's offer neither. What exactly are you proposing? Asked the Secretary General. A diplomatic mission, Elena replied. Not to negotiate surrender, but to introduce ourselves properly. Protests erupted from military commanders, but Zhang supported her reasoning. The hegemony has conquered through overwhelming force for 50 millennia, but the one thing they've never done is truly understand the species they subjugate. They'll kill you immediately, General Williams objected. I don't think so, Elena countered. According to the Krell records, the Council has never directly engaged with lesser species before. They're curious enough about our unusual resistance to grant an audience, if only to study us before our extinction. 6 hours later, a small Earth vessel approached the world ship. Inside, humanity's unusual delegation prepared for first contact with the hegemony's ancient leadership. Elena and Zhang were accompanied by Okonkwo, Patel, and Chen, not as military representatives, but as cultural ambassadors. Their ship carried no weapons. Instead, its cargo holds contained art, music, literature, games, the creative achievements of human civilization. As they docked within a cavernous bay that could have housed a small city, Elena reminded her team of the mission parameters. Remember, we're not here to beg or threaten. We're here to be the one thing the hegemony has never encountered, a species that wants to be understood rather than feared. They were escorted through corridors that seemed to reconfigure themselves, eventually entering a vast chamber where reality felt thin. The Council of Seven awaited, beings so ancient they no longer resembled any recognizable species. Their forms blended biological and mechanical elements in ways that defied classification, each seated upon crystalline structures that hovered above the floor. You stand before the architects of order, announced an entity that appeared to serve as intermediary. 50,000 years of galactic harmony through proper hierarchical arrangement of species. You will explain your disruption of this harmony. Instead of launching into defensive justifications, Elena smiled and opened the cultural exchange. She activated a holographic display showing Earth's artistic masterpieces. Zhang demonstrated martial arts forms that were both combat and dance. Patel set up a chessboard, explaining the complex interplay of different pieces. The council observed in silence, their ancient consciousness encountering something unexpected, not pleas for mercy, but an invitation to understand. The apparent leader, a being whose form shifted between states of matter, leaned forward with something resembling curiosity. You do not fear us appropriately. Explain this aberration. We thought you might enjoy some music first, Elena replied, signaling Chen to activate the symphonic recording. As Bach's cello suites filled the chamber, Chen's microscopic robots, disguised as atmospheric sensors, began their real work, mapping the world ship systems for the resistance fleet hiding in Jupiter's shadow. For 3 days, the human delegation engaged the Council of Seven in what appeared to be cultural exchange, but was actually an elaborate distraction. Elena guided discussions through human philosophy, art, and scientific thought, while Chen's microscopic network mapped the world ship's systems. Zhang and Okonkwo memorized potential tactical points throughout the massive structure. Patel engaged several council members in increasingly complex games of strategy, observing their thought patterns. During a chess match with the Prime Counselor, Patel noticed something revealing. The ancient entity, despite possessing computational abilities far beyond human capacity, struggled with moves requiring sacrifice of powerful pieces for long-term advantage. The hegemony mind, even at its highest level, was fundamentally hierarchical, unable to conceive that sometimes the most valuable pieces must be risked. Enough, the Prime Counselor finally declared, rising from the game table. Its form shifted between states, settling into a crystalline configuration that towered over the humans. We have studied your species sufficiently. You display cognitive patterns incompatible with galactic harmony. The chamber's atmosphere changed instantly. The other council members moved to positions around the room's perimeter, their forms synchronizing into perfect geometric alignment. Your unpredictability threatens order, the Prime Counselor continued. Your capacity for irrational creativity cannot be permitted to spread among our subject species. Protocol Omega will now commence. The chamber's center opened, revealing an ancient device constructed from materials that seemed to exist partially in other dimensions. Light both poured from and was consumed by its structure simultaneously. The Omega Protocol, Chen whispered, recognizing the device from her research into the Nalari data. It's designed to erase specific neural patterns across space. Elena realized with horror what this meant. They're not trying to kill us. They're trying to remove what makes us human, our creativity, our unpredictability, while preserving our bodies as useful servants, Zhang finished grimly. The device hummed with increasing power as the council synchronized their consciousness with it. Energy patterns spiraled outward, targeting Earth billions of kilometers away. Elena's team watched helplessly as the weapon designed to eliminate humanity's cognitive uniqueness powered up. In that moment, the coordinated counterattack began. Resistance forces throughout the solar system launched their synchronized assault. The Asiri hive mind, now unified and strengthened, infiltrated the hegemony's psychic network. The Krell deployed ancient countermeasures they had hidden for millennia. The Dur led ground offensives against key hegemony installations on Mars and the Moon. But the Omega weapon continued charging until Dr. Chen activated her emergency transmitter. Unknown to the others, she had anticipated this moment weeks earlier. Now, she commanded into the secure channel. Across Earth, a network of satellites and ground stations Chen had secretly modified came online, not to block the weapon, but to amplify and broadcast human thought patterns. As the Omega Protocol fired, its energy wave encountered not resistance but resonance, creating a feedback loop that Chen had calculated with perfect precision. The council members convulsed as the AI weapon's effect rebounded through their own telepathic network. Instead of erasing human consciousness, the amplified wave of human thought, our dreams, emotions, creativity, our capacity for both logic and intuition, cascaded through the hegemony's command structure. Rigid alien minds, evolved for specialized functions and hierarchical order, encountered the full spectrum of human consciousness. Many hegemony commanders collapsed from cognitive overload. Others experienced something entirely new: genuine empathy for the species they had subjugated. On the world ship, the council members writhed as their ancient consciousness confronted human imagination, humor, love, and defiance. Through the mental link, they experienced not just abstract concepts but visceral human memories: a child's laughter, the grief of loss, the thrill of discovery, the comfort of connection. "What have you done?" gasped the Prime Counselor, its form destabilizing under the mental strain. Elena stepped forward, her expression both compassionate and resolute. "We introduced ourselves. Properly this time." Throughout the solar system, the coordinated resistance pushed forward as the hegemony command structure dissolved into confusion. For the first time in 50 millennia, the perfect machine of conquest had encountered its antithesis, not in superior force, but in a form of consciousness it could neither predict nor control. 3 years after the reversal of the Omega Protocol, Elena stood on the observation deck of the former hegemony worldship, now renamed Harmony. Where once the cold geometry of conquest had dominated, new architecture blended design elements from hundreds of species. The massive structure, originally engineered to project dominance, had been transformed into something previously inconceivable to its creators, a collaborative space where diversity strengthened rather than threatened the whole. Below her, representatives from 200 formerly subjugated species gathered in the Grand Assembly Chamber. Some floated in specialized atmosphere bubbles, others moved in mechanical assistance frames, while many needed no accommodation at all. What united them wasn't physical similarity, but shared purpose, building a galactic civilization founded on cooperation rather than subjugation. Madam Secretary General, Zhang approached, now wearing the insignia of Admiral of the Cooperative Defense Fleet. The Dur delegation has arrived with the new treaty proposals. Elena smiled at her old friend. And the Vixari representatives? Nervous, Zhang replied with a slight grin. It's their first official diplomatic mission since joining the cooperative. They're eager to demonstrate that their natural talents can serve connection rather than conquest. The transition hadn't been entirely smooth. Some former hegemony hardliners had initially resisted the new order, but found their support evaporating. As species after species embraced autonomy over rigid hierarchy, the Council of Seven, their worldview shattered by direct exposure to human consciousness, had retreated to an isolated system to contemplate their millennia of mistakes. Dr. Chen entered the observation deck, her research team following behind. The cross-species medical exchange has exceeded expectations, she reported. The Asiri bioelectric techniques combined with Krell crystalline memory structures have allowed us to cure diseases thought untreatable for centuries. The Asiri hive mind, fully restored and expanded, now served as the cooperative's living communication network, connecting distant worlds instantaneously through their telepathic bonds. The Krell, their perfect memories now valued rather than exploited, had become the keepers of galactic history, ensuring no species' heritage would ever again be erased. Patel joined them, having just concluded a session with the Economic Advisory Council. The adaptive resource allocation model is stabilizing markets across 37 systems. Turns out game theory works better when the goal is mutual prosperity rather than dominance. Lieutenant Okonkwo, now General Okonkwo, transmitted from the training academy on Mars, where mixed species defense teams learn to complement each other's natural abilities rather than conform to standardized tactics. As Elena prepared to address the first official cooperative assembly, she reflected on humanity's journey from isolated world to galactic leaders. The traditional concept of supreme rulers implied dominance through conquest and control. Humans had achieved something more profound, leadership through connection and inclusion. The doors to the Grand Assembly slid open. Elena entered to respectful silence from the gathered representatives. The universal translation matrix she had designed allowed all species to communicate while preserving their cultural nuances rather than forcing conformity. 3 years ago, she began, our worlds faced a choice between subjugation and extinction. Today we choose a third path, cooperation that honors our differences while uniting our strengths. A delegation of young Vixari, once the hegemony's conquering vanguard, approached with ceremonial gifts. Their scales shimmered with colors that in their culture expressed hope and humility. Elena welcomed them with the traditional greeting she had learned from their elders, a gesture that would have been unimaginable during the conflict. From the assembly floor, the eldest Dur philosopher raised all 4 hands in their traditional blessing. For 50,000 years, the hegemony taught us that diversity meant weakness, that order required uniformity. Humans showed us that true strength comes from harmony, not homogeneity. Above the gathering, a holographic display showed real-time images from across the cooperative systems, worlds rebuilding, species reclaiming their heritage, and new technologies emerging from unprecedented collaboration. In the end, humans had not conquered the stars through superior firepower or ruthless determination. They had transformed galactic civilization by offering something the hegemony, with all its ancient power, had never considered possible. A universe where each species brought its unique gifts to create a symphony more beautiful than any single note could achieve alone. The true victory wasn't defeating the hegemony, but creating something better in its place. A galactic civilization worthy of all its members, with humanity not as conquerors, but as the composers of a greater harmony.